Takes it, going to the sideline. Big six. Tommy Hill. The short run to the house. Look at that. Handoff. Down Touchdown. His third.
Welcome in. It's Monday night, so you know we're already here. Cornhusker Connection live on Twitter and Twitch. Clips throughout the week on YouTube, and we're back on Spotify in case you didn't know. It's probably the best of both worlds. You get to listen to our gnarly takes, and you don't even have to look at us. So it's a winning formula. Check out the Spotify. Nebraska football, they did play a game, lost to Michigan 30-27. Before I get into the deep dive, initial thoughts, initial reactions. How are you feeling?
It's so tough because 1 second I'll think about it and like, man, we just did not have a chance in that game. And then an hour later I'll think about it again. I'm like, we were so close. So I still haven't fully digested it, I don't think. But I mean, this is what comes with high hopes, right? Like somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. Unfortunately, it's always Nebraska that loses. A lot of things to be said about this game, some that I'm not fully ready to talk about yet, I guess.
Yeah, it's a real, I mean, it's a Nebraska football game. I feel like I watched the Broncos game and I'm like, okay, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. This is why they lost the game. But there's so much to look at with this Nebraska game, and there's a lot of good stuff we'll get into, but just kind of break the game down. And that same thing that I'm talking about, hot and cold start, they move the ball right down the field, get the ball within the 30-yard lines, twice come up with 0 points, courtesy of the missed 4th and 1 inside the 20 and missed field goal from Kyle Cunanan. Michigan jumps right on top, gets a 10-0 lead. Nebraska fires back, ties it up at 10, and then immediately relinquishes the lead on a 30 or a 75-yard touchdown run from Justice Haynes. And it looks like Nebraska's going into the halftime breakdown 7, and a weird stretch of clock management from really both coaches. Way more puzzling on the Michigan sideline, especially with the hindsight. But instead, Nebraska decides to call a timeout with the 1 second left and say, fuck it. We got Dylan Raiola. I'll find Ja'Cory Barney down there somewhere. All 6 feet of him in a cloud of Michigan DBs, comes up with it, 17-17. Admittedly, before that, a bit dejected, thought the score was going to be worse than it was. And then I'm all the way back at this point. Fresh ball game, fresh slate, go into the halftime break, do what you got to do. And then within 10 minutes, Michigan's back up 10. And Nebraska, they fought back the entire way. They get a field goal early in the fourth quarter, get a touchdown. Heisman Harburg, shout outs. Heisman Harburg, and eventually just fall 30-27 against Michigan. Obviously, the rushing defense, the concern, almost 300 yards, 7 yards per play allowed. Held Bryce Underwood in check through the air. And God, so many ifs, but like if you take away his 45-yard touchdown run, his stats look way worse than it is. But I mean, there's so many ifs. That feels like a silly thing to say.
I mean, you can look at that, and the numbers there I feel like are kind of deceiving, because if you are able to stop the run even a little bit, then I'm sure that he passes quite a bit more. But he didn't have to.
That's true.
So you can look at it and be like, oh, yeah, look, our secondary is elite, which I do think that they're still really good. But they didn't have to throw the ball because they were moving the ball easily on the ground. That fourth down play in the first drive, I still think that was a correct call. The play calling, though, was too cute. And I remember talking to Brooke before the game started. I said, let's quit that shit off. Like, let's knock it off, because we find ourselves in these situations against Akron, against Houston Christian. Like, just score. Just line up. You're better than them. Just score. Stop with the direct snap to Harbor. Stop with, like all that stuff. Just score. And if you line up and those guys are better than you, then fine, whatever. But that, I think, calling that play there means that you know that you might be a little outmatched going up with him one-on-one. So kind of set the tone for that defense, that Michigan defense. I feel like they felt very confident, knowing that maybe we're not as confident going up against them. Plenty of bad stuff to go over, some good stuff to go over. The season's not done. I think there's still a path to 10-2, which is kind of what we were thinking earlier. But this one just sucks. Like a real kick to the balls.
Yeah. Keep going back and forth on that 4th and 1 because first of all, if you get any push whatsoever up front, it's a first down. We don't have to worry about having this conversation. Yeah. It's just and it's also like the field goal wasn't a gimme. I admittedly like what happens if we go conservative, kick the field goal and miss it, then we're in the same boat. Then we're pitchforks and pitching outside Memorial Stadium saying, why didn't you go for it? Why are you being such a pussy? Yeah. But it didn't work out. But I like the aggression, I guess. But it is what it is. It would have been nice to get a quick lead, even if it's just 3, even if it feels like, man, we're getting some meat on the bones. Boy, at least we'd get a little bit of meat out of it. But I like the aggression, and I think Matt Rule said it after the game, like, to beat Michigan, you got to score touchdowns. And it's not to get a touchdown, just didn't work out. It is what it is. But the theme of the game is Nebraska was really good most of the game. Mm-hmm. And then now we know that's not good enough. You have to be really good all of the game. Yeah. Can't take plays off. Huge chunk plays, 75-yard touchdown run, 54-yard touchdown run, 45-yard touchdown run. I mean, that turns this into a solid Nebraska win to a yucky feeling loss. And I think if you had told me going into the game Michigan was going to win 30-27, I'm like, okay, whatever. It's probably a lot of good to go in there, but it's just this yucky feeling just seeing how it unfolded.
Yeah, and I mean, another big thing with that game is Michigan's defensive line that great, or is our offensive line not as good as we thought it was going to be? Because Dylan was getting harassed all day, some to his fault, not all on the offensive line, but it was a lot of time. It was instant, boom, somebody's in his face. So then we start calling screenplays that do not work. So we just get in this like rinse and repeat cycle of, drop back, somebody's in his face, throw a screen, lose 2 yards, run the ball, punt. And it just felt like that was kind of the thing for a while on a couple of those drives. Sometimes Dylan looked good. Sometimes he looked really bad, in the sense where he still can't seem to handle pressure very well. But he threw the ball pretty well, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and I got a text in the middle of the first quarter, and Dylan didn't get off to a great start, but I started to get text messages about TJ Lateef, which drive me crazy because like Dylan's not the problem.
No. So I was talking. Sorry, go ahead.
And I was just thinking of all, and maybe this is just comparing it to all the god awful quarterback play we've seen over the last few years. But I'm like, the best case scenario is Dylan turning into a freak. Mm-hmm. And I think you have the counter argument here for.
The only thing I was going to say is the game that it was and the way that they were pressuring us so bad, that sets up TJ Lateef to be able to go out there and do something with that because he's mobile. Like he's a dual threat quarterback, whereas Dylan is more of a sit in the pocket, throw the ball. Not once was I thinking, we need TJ Lateef out here, but I did say, do we throw him out there for a couple plays with Dylan out there, just see what happens?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that he should have started the second half over Dylan. That never once crossed my mind. But even if he was a little more mobile, you can extend drives, you can make plays outside the pocket. It's a big difference than sitting there and getting sacked like Peyton Manning did.
And I have gotten a little bit off my high horse when it comes to that because there is obviously the run game wasn't working. throughout the games, particularly in the second half. That I could see a vision where now you can turn the quarterback into a ball carrier, get an extra hat out there. I don't know what difference that would have made with how everybody was getting blown up on the outsides, but just to try to create some type of advantage to get, because Nebraska looks so good offensively once they get that first down and they're able to get into a rhythm and they're able to get the defense on the heels. But sometimes it feels like getting that first down is the most impossible thing on earth.
Yeah.
And I could see a world where that design quarterback run definitely comes in handy, especially early on in drives.
Yeah, and I don't want to sit here and sound like a broken record from last year. And this was only like a handful of times where I'm sitting there asking myself, like, why are you calling that play? Again, I don't think that's why we lost. I don't think the play calling was horrendous by any means. But sometimes I'm like, why that one? What made you believe that was a correct call here? And again, maybe a handful of times, but they were in some kind of big moments. So I just love to know why some of those calls were played or plays were called.
Yeah, it does get very difficult as a play caller because you don't have the time to get your 5-step drops in to really set up in the pocket. The running game wasn't working, so you cut out 60% of your playbook, and that's what you're left with. That's an impossible task.
Yeah.
And the only opportunity there is get the ball out in space. If it works, it looks like a beautifully designed screenplay, but we definitely didn't see it work at all last year, and especially with Chenary and Bonner going down, it feels like it's still not quite getting very physical on the edge, which is a bummer.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even really seen him call like the Ja'Cory Barney play, where he runs like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage in front or behind the defensive line, and it's essentially a screen pass. Maybe that doesn't work as well against good teams, but against the bad teams, it works pretty well. So
and it's
trying
just
that. I don't know. Try to get that guy the ball.
Normally
good things happen.
I am a little bit worried because I think Ja'Cory Barney's on pace to get murdered on the field. He is taking some crazy shots, and he's bounced right up every time. But boy, those aren't sustainable hits to be taking.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Michigan played their game. We played right into it. Good on them. They were obviously better, good enough to win the game against us. And now we got to sit here for another week without a game. Stinks. And then we go right into Michigan State, which they don't look like they're bad at all. So we'll see how that goes.
Yep. And that's a very good way to describe Michigan State. Not very bad at all. Does this game change your outlook on Nebraska? Are there anything that we've seen through 4 games that raise some concerns or you feel better about? What's the outlook look like today compared to Friday?
So we did fight. We fought that whole game. Great to see that. That helps me believe in the team in the long run. And you're kidding yourself if you weren't looking at the schedule this season and looking at this Michigan game, saying we could win this one, we could lose this one. So now for you to sit here and say this season's over after watching that game, as long as we didn't get blown out like we did the last time they were in Memorial, I don't see that being the case. And I think everybody's kind of emotional. Like, we should be a good team, and I think we are still a good team, but good teams win those games. It would have just set us up for a crazy run of a season. So to get chopped down at the knees so early stinks. But I think the Michigan State game will be all telling on our season. If we go out there and lay a stinker, then the season's over. I mean, then you're hoping for another 7 wins or to get 7 wins at that point. So I'm not ready to write anything off. I think you need to see the next game and then you can truly tell how the rest of the season's going to go.
Where I do feel much worse is I feel like I got egg on my face because I feel like every single year there are red flags in the offseason that I overlook one way or the other. Like, I just assumed that if you're going to let Dante Dowdell walk and you're not going to really pursue any running backs in the portal that you feel so good about where the running back room is, you think that we don't need it. That doesn't seem to be the case. Emmett's looked awesome. I love how Emmett's looked, but it doesn't seem like we've established any bit of a RB2 or gotten to a good rhythm there. I looked at the left tackle thing as we were starting the season, like, well,
that was so funny, by the way. When they brought Elijah Pritchett out for one play, immediate full start, and then he got taken out.
So, like, how many players have to jump off sides for Nebraska to get that call?
So I see what they're saying, right? Like, he wasn't lined up, so he didn't cause, like, he wasn't lined up right across from him, so he didn't cause him to jump. I mean,
we're still talking about
BS call. Yeah,
close to 20% of the defense.
Yeah,
in the neutral zone, and I just don't think it's impossible that maybe he saw a little bit out of his peripheral. If that's the case, either way, having 20% of the defense jump seems like it warrants a penalty out of me. But yeah, it is pretty funny that the two big plays that we've seen from Elijah Pritchett happen to be false start penalties, which it feels crazy, but that's where we're at with him. And I just kind of figured that, Gunner was pushing him because the tackles look so good that even though we got this $1 million acquisition from Alabama, that they're pushing him. And I'm starting to think that maybe that's not the case. And he's looked good through the first 3 games, so I don't want to, totally poo-poo on the tackles. But boy, they got blown up time and time again.
Yeah.
And Michigan didn't blitz all that much. It's one-on-one battles.
Yeah.
Like those are the things that I chose to be ignorant of, and now I feel like I got egg on my face. Like those are real problems going forward.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the running back thing, I think it's got to be Ives is the RB2, but they're seemingly unwilling to commit to that. So the RB2 is kind of a rotational role, like who looks good in practice that week, and I don't think that, especially with young guys, I don't think that rotating them in every week based off of practice is good for them. I don't know. So it's like finding a rhythm, and none of them are able to because they're getting 3 carries, and then the other guy's getting 4 carries, and the other guy's getting 2 carries. It's like Emmett obviously is the cowbell, but you got to have 10 carries as an RB2 to find some kind of rhythm, and they're just not able to do that.
Yeah, that's just the thing that I had hoped would have gotten taken care of by now. And I guess Ives is a senior, but he hasn't played much throughout his time. And then you have 2 freshmen in Mosey and Nelson. You got to get those guys reps if you think that there's any chance that they're the answer at RB2. And I don't know what happened with Mekhi Nelson last week for him not to play, but you got to get that answered. And I love Quentin Ives. I think he'd be a great counterpunch to what Emmett can do, but I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. The thing that is comforting to me is we're not sitting here talking about, the wide receivers couldn't get any separation like we have talked about like last year. So I feel really good about that. I feel good about our passing game for the most part. It's just making sure Dylan has some damn time back there, and then figuring out, obviously, the blocking scheme, and then running back. So that's a bright spot. Again, what did Dylan throw for, like 300 something yards?
Mm-hmm. Another 70% completion day.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And now kind of looking into the positives, I do think Dylan's a freak. So I'm so happy to have him, because there are iterations of this team that would have just fallen back, not fought. I mean, I'm thinking back to that Colorado game a couple of years ago with Jeff Sims. As soon as Michigan jumped on him that same year, just fell down. I never felt like, even down 10 in the fourth quarter, that Nebraska was really out of it. And that's mostly due to Dylan Raiola, I think. He's a freak. I'm seeing everything out of him that I hope that we would see. Obviously not perfect, but I think very, very promising. And the wide receivers, I talk about how they didn't do much in the transfer portal with the offensive line and with the running backs. They nailed it with the wide receiver room. Barney looks awesome.
Although
Barney
Isaiah
got a transfer.
Hunter stepping out of bounds there is so stupid.
For no reason. There's nobody near him.
No. It was so stupid.
Lost track of where he was. And that hurts. I forgot about that play. Ugh. I do think it's also important to keep in perspective. I feel like not that the buzz in the offseason got too big for Nebraska to meet those expectations, but I think we got to put it in perspective. I think the reason why we thought that was more so to do with the schedule, not necessarily because we thought this was a top 15 caliber team. Just it's a favorable schedule. Year 2 under Dylan. Got these new pieces. I think it's important to take a step back. Like, this isn't a top 15 team, and if you thought so, maybe you're a little bit ahead of schedule there. Because and defensively, I haven't talked much about them because I don't see a whole lot. It looks like a defense comprised mostly of the seasoned secondary and freshmen and sophomores in the front seven, and that's what it looks like. And that's something that I hope gets better, that I hope keeps developing, because there's a lot of talent. But especially with Vince Shavers, because you see the freak in there, but then you see him get moved off the ball every now and then, or just trying to do too much, and that's just something I think is going to come with time.
Yeah, I mean, you can't play in the Big Ten and have your D line get blown off the ball every time. Like they're not moving anybody; they're getting moved to where the offense wants them to be. And then you have somebody like Marquise Buford coming to step in the hole and just doesn't even make an attempt at the tackle, just gets ran by. That's tough. Because if you're going to have this great secondary or really good secondary and have a shoddy offensive or defensive line, you need those guys to come up and play. And when you have your guy come up and make a play and he's just not there, then you see 75 yards. Peter, so they got to play in tandem. I know it's a lot to ask that secondary to cover these guys running downfield, but also be there to stop the run. But I mean, that's just what you got to do.
That's what that play needed. That's Nebraska had the guys exactly where they needed to be. My guy versus your guy. Let's make a play, chop them down, make contact at some point, and maybe Vince Shavers gets off that block and can help out. But yeah, looks like Shiloh Sanders out there.
If
Travis
he makes
Hunter against Dante Dowdell.
Even a little bit of contact on him, I mean, that's at most a 10, 15-yard gain. Instead, it's 75 yards. So, not good.
Do you think Nebraska was closer to winning this game or closer to getting blown out?
I think we're close.
Because I keep going back and forth.
I think we were closer to winning it. And maybe that's just blind confidence. Again, I don't think we played horribly. It's just you can't let these guys just run up your throat for 75 or 45. Like you can't let that happen against a good team.
Yeah. Overall, taking a step back, taking a deep breath, 3-1's not a bad place to be.